Sublime magnificence.
Hey guys, you know who it is, what's going on, when it's happening, where it's at, and why we're here today. How you doing? It is I, the sublimely magnificent Big Ugly himself, Omari Ellis Mayo Grande, back here on YouTube with another episode of This Guy Hasn't Seen, starting off year 3. We're starting it off here for the beginning of the third year. As usual, I am joined by my co-host and running mate, one of my best friends in the world, El Director himself, Bill Smith.
What's up, Omari? Thank you so much for having me back, as always. Yeah, man. Starting off year 3, so I decided I had to bring the heat.
Ooh.
I had to bring, I had to bring it. Um, and I think that's what I'm gonna do for a little bit here. Is we're going to get back on, uh, you know,
Yeah.
hitting some of these greatest American films of all time list of films that you haven't checked off. So I grabbed a banger out of that list for us to cover this week.
All right. I'm looking forward to it. And that is right. And so, what we are watching this week that Bill has suggested to me that I had not seen is the American cinematic classic Apocalypse Now.
Apocalypse Now, rated R, from 1979. A U.S. Army officer serving in Vietnam is tasked with assassinating a renegade special forces colonel who sees himself as a god. It is directed by Francis Ford Coppola. It is written by John Milius, Francis Ford Coppola, and also written by Michael Herr. And then you have the stars of the film: Martin Sheen, Marlon Brando, and Robert Duvall. This film is based on a book called Heart of Darkness by John Milius, who also started to flesh out the initials of the screenplay, where Francis Ford Coppola made many Francis Ford Coppola edits and changes to it, as well as adding on the assistance of Michael Herr, who was an actual Vietnam journalist. And he is responsible for the authoring of most of the narration in the film.
Okay.
So that's how we have the screenplay broken down. Stars, as I talked about: Martin Sheen, Marlon Brando, Robert Duvall. You also have a ton of other players in here doing great work, like Dennis Hopper. And then you also have some soon to be players doing some good work before you really knew that they were going to be fixtures in your home forever, and that's Lawrence Fishburne and Harrison Ford sneaking in this film. So we're gonna break it all down and go through this movie. Omari, cinema history,
Yes.
a classic, always in a top 20, a top 10, a top 5 on American film lists. Why have you never seen Apocalypse Now?
One, didn't realize it was that highly rated. And two, because I didn't want to watch a movie about a meteor. So I made the joke last week about the whole no glow because of Armageddon, but usually I don't know why. Just in the public zeitgeist of movies that came out when I was, well, I guess Apocalypse Now didn't come out when I was younger, but Armageddon did, and I don't know. I associate a meteor come to destroy the Earth with an apocalypse, and not knowing what Apocalypse Now was about, I just always associated the two movies together, even when the people be like, no, that's Armageddon. Oh, well, I don't know Apocalypse Now. And then they'd be like, oh, well, you should see it. And then we would move on. And that pretty much be it. It's just, they talk about Apocalypse Now. I make a fucking Armageddon reference if it's not the fucking song. which I haven't seen Armageddon either. Otherwise, I would know what the fuck, something else to make. But I'll just be like, I'm not that big on meteors, and they're like, that's Armageddon. Oh, and then the topic would change. But yeah, so that's it. I've seen. We'll go. We'll mention it as we go through, but I've clearly seen stuff. It clearly has had an impact on pop culture. Um, yeah, I I don't know. I
What were you
never watched
prepared?
it. Um,
Did you still think it was going to be a meteor movie?
no, I think last week after making the joke or whatever, I knew it was. I think I always knew it wasn't about meteors, but I didn't remember if you told me it was a war movie or what. But when I saw the picture, it was like him breaching in the water near the climax or
Oh
whatever.
yeah.
When I tried to look up Apocalypse Now to see if I could find it on Prime or wherever to watch, and I was like, "This is like a fucking alien type movie shit, dude, or post apocalyptic type shit, fighting war type shit." But so that's what I was thinking. I wasn't sure what to think. For people who may be new to this and didn't see the first 2 years, I don't often read the summaries on these films because they would have just straight up told me what to expect. I like trying to get the idea. If I don't know where a movie's going, I like trying to figure it out early on.
Okay. All right.
So yeah.
All right. Well, then let's get into it. We're opening it up. We open up right away on a jungle being napalmed. Uh,
Well, shit. Start with a napalm because my first quote. Like, oh, well, damn. I did like the artisticness of the opening and all the stuff they were doing. They
hmm
went for a lot of art in the movie in general. A lot of different shots and lighting styles
hmm
they worked with. So I liked that.
Do you know what else Francis Ford Coppola has directed?
Godfather?
Yes, Godfather,
Yes.
Godfather 2, uh,
Not the
Godfather
third one.
3,
Oh, he did? Oh,
I
okay.
think. Maybe not.
Wait, which one's the one people hate?
Godfather 3. I mean,
Okay.
I don't know if
That's
people
why I
hate
was,
it, but
well,
it's known to be not 1 and 2.
gotcha. Yes, I know him for the Godfather series. Um, and being related to Nick Cage
Yeah, there's something there.
because he
There's
changed his
something there.
last name. That's the
I
only
think
reason I know.
I want to say the same with maybe Gwyneth Paltrow. She's also somehow
Oh,
like yeah,
okay. I learned
yeah, I'm
that.
not sure, but yeah. Um
Yeah, but yeah. So that's
I only bring
whatever.
that up because you were mentioning like yeah, the film is going to make artistic choices throughout it. And that's that's kind of Francis Ford Coppola's thing is he's going to throw some things in there. We're still in the 1970s. We're still making a 70s film here. And it's going to have a little bit of that even
Yeah,
though he is close to the modern sensibility of film that happens in the 80s with one of his one of the people from his learning tree in USC, Steven Spielberg, and one of his best friends, George Lucas, are about ready to change cinema history. But for right now, they're still kind of making 1970s films, just like Star Wars is. The initial A New Hope, kind of nothing like any other Star Wars after it. It's a
yeah.
little bit more artsy, a little bit more independent film vibes set in
Mhm.
1970. I feel like the 1970s all have this kind of feeling to them.
Yeah,
But yeah, so yeah, we do start off with that introduction and then going into what you may not be aware of is being a famous apartment scene.
Yeah, I don't think I knew that the apartment scene was famous, but it was. I can see
Okay.
why. And so I was
That's
like,
something that's just heavily referenced.
yes,
Anytime you need a moment, particularly in like comedies, if you need a moment where the character needs to like sulk on something or figure something out,
oh,
it's
okay,
very often they end up doing slow motion karate in their underwear, you know, or like staring in a mirror and going
gotcha.
like, I don't even know who you are, blah, 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 and then punching it or something like that. That's all kind of leading back
Okay,
to this scene.
everybody, it's the origin point for all of those. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I okay, I can see that. I was like, at first, I'm like, so this movie's about PTSD. Then he does something, and I'm like, or I think he like wakes up because he hears something, and I'm like, yep, that's exactly what this movie's about, PTSD. And then I'm like, oh wait, and then he's like, some people talk about getting to the jungle, but I just wish I was back there. I'm like, oh, not PTSD. He wants to be killing folks. Okay. And something happens when they come and meet him. And I'm like, yeah, something psychological is going on with this movie. We're going to have a lot of we're going to be talking about people's psyche and what war does to people. When we get our first mission, I see Harrison Ford. I think he's going to be a bigger part of the movie. He wasn't, but it's still cool to see him in the movie. And
Yep.
they're telling him about the mission, and I'm like,
This is after he has shot A New Hope, but before it is released.
oh, okay,
I believe. But by the time this movie airs, Star Wars has already come out. I believe is the timeline. Or this is before he's even shot Star Wars, but they know they're being cast. He knows he's already cast as this guy Han Solo. But Star Wars is able to shoot and release before this film comes out. Might be the timeline on it. Either way, this is extremely early Harrison Ford, not Francis Ford Coppola, not knowing what he has
yeah,
here.
yeah. So they talk and they give him his mission to slay the dude, and I'm thinking early on, I'm like, all the psychological shit. Is this main character Kurt's guy on some Kaiser Soze shit? Like, is the main character actually the villain? He thinks he's going out to kill this dude, but he's just gonna meet up with a bunch of people like, it was you. You've lost yourself. You've lost your way. Because they talk about Kurtz being a really good dude that just couldn't keep going. And now we gotta kill him. And we're sending you pretty much to die. And this mission's off the record. No one knows it's happening up there. That's what I'm thinking it's gonna be. But obviously, movie keeps going. We go to the war, all the stuff. We meet Kilgore. He's hilarious. Uh, I mean, Charlie don't surf. The
Yeah.
second he starts getting obsessed with surfing, I'm
No,
like,
I mean Robert Duvall is iconic in this film. He is, I mean, one of the most iconic moments in cinema is I love the smell of napalm in the
in the
morning.
morning. I'm like, so okay, this guy's the
Smells
source of
like
like
victory.
yeah, this guy's the source of every fucking war meme.
Right.
Just that soldier. And what's his name even kind of describes him as something. He's like, he just had a light about him. There's something that told you he was gonna be just fine when everything was said and done. Like, nothing's
I
gonna hurt
mean,
him. And he carried himself as
that
such.
crew is badass. Yeah. No, and he is like that whole flight to the battle, he's just like sipping a coffee when that flare comes in and everyone in the helicopter is freaking out. He's just like, oh,
That's
come
the thing.
on,
That's the
just
shit. Put
get
it
it out of
out.
here.
Get
It's
it
a
out.
flare.
It's a flare. It's just a
Like it
flare.
takes him a minute to even turn around because he's like, nothing. What are they freaking out about? Oh my god, just get it out of here. Like, yeah,
He lands. He's just kind of everyone's ducking and shit. He's just
Oh yeah, yeah, no, there's that one moment where there's something that explodes like within feet of him, and everybody around him immediately is just like, ah! And he's just what? Anyway, as I was saying,
This beach is perfectly fine to surf. We got 6 foot peaks, I tell you, 6 foot peak.
look how they break in both directions.
No, Kilgore. That whole segment was great. The like ski surfing, like while they're in the enemy territory, like on the boat, just like
Oh yeah, we got mentioned the crew that Martin Sheen's character ends up hooking up with, including a young Lawrence Fishburne as Clean. You have Chief, you have Chef, and then you have the other dude from the surfer dude
Lance.
from California, Lance. Okay, yeah. So this is his crew that's going to man this boat that is assigned to get him upriver.
Yeah, that's right. We meet them, then they eventually meet Kilgore to take their boat to where it needs to go or whatever, so they can start going up the
Yeah, just
river.
straight up picks up the boat with a
And what's
helicopter.
his name? Fucking speaking of memes, Kilgore. We gotta have the music come on. What? I like going with Wagner. Like, is this where the freaking trend started of playing Ride of the Valkyries for a fucking war thing? But I love it. He's just like blasting the music too as he plays. Like, everything about that character is awesome to me. But yeah, they get past that. They eventually get to the woods. Standout moment, the thing with the tiger. They're just like,
Oh yeah, yeah, hunting in the jungle and like yeah, Martin Sheen, they're hunting for mangoes for Chef,
yeah,
who's because I just we just need a personal moment with Chef to be able to care about him, and we learn about him just wanting to be a chef and growing up in New Orleans. He's
saucier.
yeah, he's destined to be a saucier. What's a saucier? He specializes in sauces.
He
Um,
did say saucier like 5 times, wanting him to ask what saucier was.
You know, a saucier. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just anytime now, I'm gonna go back and be a saucier. I was gonna go to school and learn how to be a saucier, but then the war happened.
Okay, what's
Saucier.
it?
Uh, um, yeah, and then that tiger jump scare. That's a good one.
Fucking tiger!
Never get off the boat. Never get off the boat.
Fucking tigers! God damn it! But yeah, go eventually they hit the freaking. But around that time, I'm like, all these dudes are dying. I just got that vibe. So like everybody on this boat is dying, but old dude here, because Vietnam in that time, very dangerous place. But that's war, very dangerous. Eventually, they get to the USO show. I'm like, this performance is gonna. It backfired because
Yeah, I can't imagine that's exactly how a USO show would go in Vietnam. I mean, there's
I can't imagine that it would go that way. But in the case of a movie, I'm not surprised that it backfired that way.
so there's the one of the frequent criticisms of this film can be, although it's applauded more often than not, can be that the makers, the creators involved in this, other than Michael Herr, who, like I said, just came in at the very end after they had already shot stuff to write slash spruce up Michael Sheen's narration, who was an actual Vietnam journalist. Everyone else, John Milius, who wrote the initial book, Francis Ford Coppola, are actors involved. None of them served. Um, and the book that John Milius that wrote that this film was based on is a few secondhand stories that he had gathered. None of this. A lot of well, we assumed this would have happened, kind of things. Well, that you can only assume this would happen, blah blah blah. Um, so it's there's some, you gotta realize you're watching a movie here, and this isn't
Yeah.
you're not exactly seeing historical fact.
Well,
Uh
yeah.
uh but yeah, the USO show is kind of the most it's
It's random
I
as fuck.
the movie might need it just to elevate for a moment. I don't know, but then it goes really dark really fast.
Yeah.
But the
It could be just fine without it, in all honesty. Yeah, because you don't need it. It does just serve to make people like, especially if you are in the forces, it's like this just makes us look worse. Like, damn, we just which is like, come on, ain't no way y'all are gonna go that rapid. Now, will there be people in the crowd yelling that? Yes, because assholes exist everywhere, and one or two of them would be in the audience yelling that, especially in
Oh
those
yeah,
moments.
that's why I
But
assumed that kind
but
of
the
show wouldn't
storming the
happen, because I mean, like, I can't, like, so many of those men in that audience are thinking that they are going to die tomorrow. I I would be scared to be in a crowd of men
yeah.
where they think that there might be no tomorrow.
Well, that's why I said it made sense. The
Particularly if
performance.
I was a woman.
That's what I'm saying. It makes sense. The performance backfired. Like them, it backfiring it like it did
Mhm.
makes sense, especially with now the guy is hanging from the helicopter. That's just hilarious. As it's going away, like,
What do you think is gonna happen, buddy? um,
but yeah, I real life. I don't think, like you said, I don't think it would have happened. But
right, for sure, a standout moment, and something that goes, there's we haven't touched on it yet, but there's multiple versions of this film. One that is far more extended, and one of them involves uh reuniting with the traveling USO group
huh,
upriver, like a couple of days later after the show, kind of thing. That was eventually cut from the final theatrical version. But there's even more involved with them that don't necessarily, obviously doesn't necessarily need to be in the film because it was already cut.
yeah, yeah. It that didn't need to be in the film. Like anything else didn't need to be in the film. Uh,
Yep. I would say you're starting at this point, you're starting to see a little bit of madness creep in from the crew, and which is a little weird at first. Like, I don't know, you kind of have to make yourself be okay with it, because none of them are brand new rookies when they've been handed to Martin Sheen. And they've seen a couple of things, but most of it has actually just been them riding up a river in a boat. So, like, I kind of had to make my mind say that it's the whole mystery mission of it all
yeah, that
that's
didn't help
driving them
either.
mad,
Yeah,
not knowing where or why. Um, but yeah, they are clearly they're for a team of dudes who have already spent an extended amount of time with each other on this boat doing war shit, are suddenly just getting extremely stir crazy and a little psycho when it comes to, like, the Cali dude and Chef at times, and then
yeah.
even Clean at
The
times.
boat check that they had.
Chief is an idiot. Like he's out of his mind in that moment. Martin Sheen is completely accurate in the beginning of the scenario of, like, there's no reason why we need to do this.
Yeah,
There's zero reason why we need to do this. Like, well, sometimes these things carry supplies. So what? Like, that's not our mission. And what are we gonna do if we have to find those, if we do find supplies? Then we're rerouting for somewhere, like, nah. And and then and then with and then Chef clearly being like, this it's fucking clean. Like there's nothing here. And Chief
What
pushing
about
him
that?
and pushing him and prodding him. Yeah, it's antagonistic. Um so I don't know. It's just that's a very weird dark moment.
And then eventually, what's his name just snaps and starts shooting. Just
Yeah. And
ah!
it's
And
because of Chiefs antagonizing really and elevating
the situation.
the vibe of the situation. Yeah.
Yep. And then it turns out there's a dog there, which Lance immediately starts getting attached to.
Yeah. And then
Uh,
they immediately do a death scare on the dog.
yeah.
like like yeah, that's fucking annoying. I don't really enjoy that.
Yeah. So that was a thing. Then they reach another checkpoint where it's a base with
The oh,
yeah,
the bridge is intense. It's almost a horror section of the film.
yeah, no commanding officer left.
Oh man, that
Everybody just
I
doing
loved
their
I
own
loved I loved that performance of that guy, the
Roach.
grenade launcher dude.
Yeah,
Um
Roach. I put him on here.
Roach,
That's what
okay.
reminds me of. They're
Uh
like, get the Roach to come over here. And they're like, hey, Roach, wake up.
yeah, him doing that and then being like, "Hey, do you know who's in charge here?" And him just his delivery of yeah, of as it like it just it sent chills into me of just like yeah, nobody. Like yeah, I know who it is. Fucking no one. That's
and
what I got from that microsecond yeah, and his body language and the way he walked off was just like yeah, we're on our own out here. This is hell. Welcome to hell. That's what I got from his like 5 seconds of screen time. It was so intense.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's when they decide, oh, we got to keep going. That's in Cambodia, Captain. We got to fucking go. So they go the fucking, and now they're in the super duper deep of it. They still don't want to keep going, but he's like, y'all got to take me where I'm headed. You got no choice otherwise. And so they're like, well, fuck. And eventually their boat comes under attack from what they think is arrows at first. And then what's his name tries to tell them it's just sticks. And in the confusion, they start shooting back and stuff. But eventually, Clean gets killed. Oh no, the sticks is after
Yeah,
Clean.
Clean's already dead at this point.
I forgot how Clean died. I know he gets shot. He just gets shot, right?
Yeah, no, that's when that's during Cali dude's peak of madness when he is just running around the boat with a hot pink smoke flare.
Because he dropped
Uh
acid and was like high for like 2 days. He's like, I dropped my like last tab of acid. Oh, okay. And then like the
you shouldn't
next
be high.
day is
You
a
shouldn't be
high.
tripping that long.
I was
I think
like,
that's just him fully gone mad at that point.
yeah.
But yeah,
He was
he's
playing with
just
the smoke.
yeah, and he's going woo, woo, woo. Like as that's happening, like you're just like, all right, there something's about to happen. Like they're making too much noise, they're making too much attention to themselves. Things are too positive right now. We need another down moment. And then yeah, the
So,
boat gets ambushed and clean ends up dead
yes,
while the tape from his mother is
it's
playing in the
playing.
background,
You just get your honey home safe.
talking about all the grandbabies that she's gonna have soon.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's a heartbreaker. But yeah, then it's when they get to the tribe, when they arrive at where Marlon Brando's held up, it is Chief, that takes a spear, through the chest, which
Hmm.
is another one of the moments where Vietnam and Cambodia, kind of as a collective part of the world made a statement of like, who the fuck do you think we are, Francis Ford Coppola? Like, what do you think we do? And also, Vietnam is so much more populated than you depict it. That river would have towns on every on like every square inch of it because it's a river going through our country. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, that's one of the moments, but regardless of that, it is a heavy moment. And then the the crate like the most standout moment of it is as he's dying, grabs Martin Sheen and tries to pull him into the spear. Like, no, my last dying act is gonna be to kill you, motherfucker.
This is his fucking fault. He said I did not want. He's like, I'm not going up here. Yes, you is.
We're all, I mean, you know, it's not his fault either. They're all soldiers. They're all told to just do what they're told.
Yeah. So they um they continue. Chef at that point, like Lance is full gone. Chef's just like,
Gone.
hey, I don't know what we're doing with the other kid, but I'm down to kill this guy too. Because
He
he tells
is
them at that point. At that point, he tells them the
he is
mission.
so fucking on board. Like if you're the person in Martin Sheen's case and you went to bed at night and you had daydreams or you drifted yourself off to sleep of the idea of the perfect helper for you energy wise, it is Chef. At that moment, he's just like, I got you, man. I know, I understand that there's some things that could be, but no, fuck this guy. This shit is crazy. He needs to die. I'm fully on board with whatever you need. I'll help you, whatever you need to do. And of course, Martin Sheen says, all right, stay by the boat.
If I'm not back by 11, just firebomb to place yourself.
I forgot about his ending. I thought that he was just at the boat when Martin Sheen returns.
Oh,
That is one key moment of this movie that I had forgotten about. And so that was near jump scare for me. I almost reacted like Martin Sheen reacts when Marlon Brando throws that head in his lap. Um, it's yeah,
yeah. And of course, meeting Kurtz's fanboy as well as Kurtz himself and his mini monologues, just the whole climax of the film with
yeah.
everything involving
Both of them
Brando and this
only speak in
character.
poetry, basically.
Yeah.
Man, Marlon Brando. There is, uh, I, I, I think it's incredible. I can see it being a subjective opinion and not an objective fact. Um, but I feel like what is objective is that there is no other Marlon Brando. He is unique and a one of one. And it's like Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
Like you're never going to have another Christopher Walken. It's just Christopher Walken. And there was never a Christopher Walken before Christopher Walken. Like it's Marlon Brando is so unique and one of one, and nobody could deliver a line like Marlon Brando is going to deliver a line. Somebody may deliver it better or worse, but they're never going to deliver it like Marlon Brando delivers that line. And that's really fascinating for me to watch in these last 30 minutes of this film. Every time he speaks, I'm just captivated by his flexion and pauses and intensity and lack of intensity at parts. Yeah, I'm enthralled. I'm enthralled with his performance at the end of this film.
Agreed. Agreed. He does a fantastic job. I did like it just from the beginning. And again, that's where a lot of the artistic stuff kicks in with the cameras too. They do a lot of stuff with lighting and shadows and only seeing one part of somebody's face and all this stuff. And he starts going on these things, questioning like what right the other dude has to judge him when they both do the same shit, but they're both slaves to the system. But he's also a god because he's here now, and all this other weird shit. It's a lot to take in, but you're there for the ride. His fucking fanboy journalist dudes just man, dude, ooh, wow. And it's like, yeah, okay, you're right. What happens to Lance himself? 'Cause we know, I know he goes crazy. I just forget what happens to him.
Martin Sheen takes him with him.
So he
Uh,
lives.
yeah, as the village treats him as like is like, all right, you're our new god now since you killed our god. And he starts walking through the crowd. He just kind of grabs Lance out of the crowd and is like, all right, buddy, let's
Okay,
go. and and just kind of starts walking him out with him. So yeah, he makes it out.
gotcha. Yeah, so they make it out at the end. Oh, we had the climactic moment where he's like, because it does seem like Kurtz knows he's going to kill him, and even though he ties him up, puts him in a cage and shit, he still eventually lets him go so that he can kill him. And yeah, it's a weird thing. And then he's just like, "You're going to tell my son my story. And this you will do for me." Which is crazy when I think about it, just because of other forms of media that have similar things of, I know you're gonna do it. You will do this for me, but I'm literally here trying to kill you. Whatever. We're men. That's how men work.
And I've also basically allowed you to do it too.
Yeah, I'm
I've
also
basically
letting you
told
kill
you.
me.
Yeah, I've also
By telling you that you're doing me this favor, that means I'm going to let you kill me. Yeah.
yeah. And then suddenly he just wakes up on his boat and he's like, "Yeah, all right, I've been assigned. Yeah, I'm supposed to sneak back in there because he doesn't want to just die in his sleep. He wants a soldier's death." And so yeah, he's been assigned. Uh he's been chosen by Marlon Brando at that point to be the one, like he's ready to go kind of thing. And yeah. So, Omari, you've now seen it. You can check it off the list. What'd you think of it?
I mean, it's a classic for a reason. Um, has some slower moments than are my typical go to, but to sit here and say it's something that detracts from the movie, no. Like the movie, fantastic. You know, Coppola, a master of his craft. Um, I enjoyed all the acting roles in it. Uh, there was a little bit of fluff that we mentioned with the USO show, but again, it may have been seen as a moment of like one last bit of semi levity before we really start killing off the party members.
Yeah.
Because that's where Lance takes his acid, I think. Like just before, like during that, and then later, or maybe he takes it right before the bridge.
It's the bridge base, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the bridge, okay.
Because it's all the lights of the bridge base that they're coming up on, which is very weird because they have all those lights. And then if you listen to the layers of the soundtrack of the score at that moment when they're pulling up, the very bottom layer is the circus theme, but just like slowed down. Like do 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 do. Yeah, it's fucking creepy as fuck. That's what I was saying. Like that's almost the horror section of the film.
Yeah. But no, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I would definitely recommend it to anybody to watch. I don't know how frequently I would. Like I said, it's kind of slower paced at points, but I'm happy I've
Yeah.
seen it. It's good. It was educational in the sense of, oh, this is where all the references and pop culture stuff come from. So those kind of things are always fun. It's fun to be educated by some things while you're watching a good piece.
Yeah. For me, it is a little slower pace, but I enjoy that. I enjoy that at times when it's done right, because it is a change of pace from a lot of the stuff that's getting made for us now, and of recent years. Um, but I also am thinking that this is a film that you like a little less every time you watch it. I don't know. There was something, and I can't point to anything in specific. I told you a lot of things that I was very pro. And I think really the only negative thing that we got into on my end was the USO show segments. But there's something, the overall end of the film, or when the film ends, I'm not left with a like, oh, I just watched one of the 10 greatest American films
I'll give
of
you
all
that.
time.
I'll agree
Um,
with that point.
so I don't know what it's not hitting me on, because I do enjoy a lot of almost all of the pieces in their own separate bits. But yeah, for some reason it just doesn't come together for me.
Mhm.
Now, Omari, a lot of people, if they've made it this far, have probably been sitting there being like, why isn't Bill talking about this? Why isn't Bill talking about this? Why are they talking? Well, Bill's not giving him the context of blah, blah, blah. Well, guys, that's a specific reason. And that's because next week I'm making Omari watch Hearts of Darkness, a filmmaker's apocalypse.
Yeah, so Hearts
Yeah,
of
so
Darkness.
no, yeah, next week we are going to watch the making of film done in 1991 on this film.
All right.
And it is it details and goes into a lot of that backstory in different contexts for different scenes that I could have gone into today, but I think it would be much better for us to just watch this film that a lot of people semi-jokingly and semi-seriously say may be better than the actual film. Um so yeah, we're gonna dig into that next week on this show.
I'm looking forward to it. And if you want to see some of the other episodes on our show where we've got 2 years worth, go ahead and check them out on this channel. Look at them shades. I blinked and the shades were on. Look at that. You can also find me elsewhere on YouTube under Whatever
That's
We
what did
Want
it.
podcast. I do it my show. I do a podcast. A good friend of mine, good friend of the show, Super Jazz.
Super jazz.
Thank
When
you
you
very
blink,
much, as nature
shades
intended.
appear on my face.
Yes, gotcha. I didn't hear like what you said. I was yeah. Anyway, yes. Anyhow, we got that. I also have a Twitter and Twitch at Giotavi. That's Giotavi. Come on in, stop on by. Bill, anything else you want to say to the
Hearts
folks?
of darkness, filmmakers apocalypse. Next week on This Guy Hasn't Seen.